In January 2006, Palestinians voted the Islamic movement Hamas into office. Former U.S. President Jimmy Carter called the elections, quote, completely honest and fair, unquote. Israel reacted to the Hamas election victory by imposing a blockade on Gaza. In June 2007, Hamas prevented a coup organized by the United States, Israel, and some Palestinians, and took control of Gaza. Israel and the United States tightened the blockade. In June 2008, Hamas and Israel agreed to a ceasefire. The Israeli Intelligence and Terrorism Information Center stated that Hamas was, quote, careful to maintain the ceasefire, unquote. But Israel ignored its obligation to lift the blockade. On November 4th, 2008, Israel broke the ceasefire by killing 6 Palestinian militants, according to Amnesty International. After Israel broke the ceasefire, Hamas resumed its rocket attacks. Israel now made it almost impossible for any goods or persons to enter or leave Gaza. Amnesty International called the Israeli blockade a, quote, flagrant violation, unquote, of international law. Former UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, Mary Robinson, declared that as a result of the blockade, Gaza's, quote, whole civilization has been destroyed, unquote. Hamas offered to stop its rocket attacks if Israel lifted the illegal siege of Gaza. Israel refused. On the 27th of December 2008, Israel invaded Gaza and inflicted what Amnesty called, quote, 22 days of death and destruction, unquote, on a defenseless civilian population. In April 2009, the United Nations Human Rights Council appointed Richard Goldstone, a distinguished South African judge, to investigate violations of international law by both Israel and Hamas during the invasion. In this video, we quote passages from Chapter 11, Deliberate Attacks Against the Civilian Population, of the Goldstone Report.
On January the 7th at 12:50 p.m, the Israeli army bulldozed our garden, and the Israeli tanks were positioned in front of our house, 7 meters away. They yelled at us through speakers and asked us to leave the house. So I came out along with my wife and my 3 children, Suad, 8 years old, Samar, 4 years old, and Amal, 3 years old, and my mother, 60 years old. We were all holding white flags. So we stood by our entrance holding flags, white flags. We were waiting for them to tell us what we should do, whether we should go back inside the house or move to somewhere else. They did not say anything to us. There were 2 soldiers sitting on top of the tank. One of them was eating chips. The other one was eating chocolate. We were looking at them like, what are we supposed to do? Where should we go? But no reaction from them whatsoever. We were surprised because there was all of a sudden a 3rd soldier coming out of the tank, and they started shooting at the children with no reason, with no explanation, no pretext.
اسمي سمر خالد عبد ربه. لما لقوا جلد كبير طخني من دبابة، طلع وطحني كله دب السما طح، وجع علي قرطاسين عدى اتفجر في ظهري.
I and my mother-in-law, we went through a door and suddenly I saw her fall on me. And she was telling me, I'm dying, Kawthar. And I was really surprised, so I put her on the floor and she had received 2 bullets, and then I was surprised to see that my husband was going with the children through another door, and then after I put my mother-in-law down I heard him say, Suad is dead. Suad is dead. When I heard that, I thought she was going to come through the door with her father. 10 metres I walked and I found Suad with about 15 bullets in her chest and 2 in the neck. She was murdered. So there I heard my husband say, come and see Amal, come and see Amal, and come and see Samar. They have also died. Come and see them. Come, say goodbye. And then after, for about 10 minutes I was carrying Samar and Suad. I was crying. And then I put them down and I went to see Samar and Amal, to see what happened to Amal and Samar. I was surprised to see that Amal, 2.5 years old, all her insides were outside, and she was giving her last breath, and I asked her, do you love me, Amal? And she said, I love you and I want sweets. And I said, do you love me? And imagine that last thing she says, I love you, Mum. Samar stayed for over 2 hours bleeding, and she was saying, bring me an ambulance. Don't you bring ambulances to people who are wounded? Bring me water, I'm thirsty. I want water. I want ambulance.